The SG World Cup just started on Tuesday, and I figured I'm gonna do these sort of like daily recaps of the tournament. Basically, if you didn't know, the SG World Cup is the first ever international 6v6 NHL tournament. We'll look at the standings and stats at the end of this video, but now let's just start going over game by game what happened in the first day of this tournament. So the opening game of the tournament, which was played on broadcast, which I was actually commentating on this game, was Austria against Slovakia, and Slovakia got off to a really strong start in this one. They were putting on a lot of pressure. As you can see here, they got a couple of great chances early on. Somehow, some way, Team Austria's goaltender, RPH, just unbelievable performance in this game. He was able to keep this one tied going into the first intermission. The shots were 9-1. We skip forward here a little bit. In the first period, Slovakia was just dominating, but somehow Austria scored first. Here comes the goal. Their left wing gets them on the board, and Austria scored the first goal of the tournament, believe it or not. The start of the third period, and Austria scores again. A point shot, somehow tipped in front of the net. So right away, day one in the first matchup, we see what could definitely be considered an upset. So Slovakia does get one here late, but it's not enough. Austria wins the game 2-1, and we move on to the second game, which in the second game, Slovakia started off strong. Once again, they got an early lead, 1-0 off of a tip. But then not too long after, Austria gets a couple of great chances here, and they're able to tie up the game actually. So Austria did make it 1-1, but after this, they had 2 deflection goals, and then a third one from the point off of a one-timer, and then the fourth one, little bit of a lucky bounce, but they get the 4-1 lead. But yeah, basically, this was what I was expecting game 1 to be, based on how many chances Slovakia was generating. So in my books, if I'm Austria, I'm pretty happy to steal that 3 points, because Slovakia is definitely going to be fighting for a playoff spot in Group B, in my opinion. So a split in the opening matchup, 3 points each to Latvia as well as Slovakia. And then the second matchup that was played on Sports Gamers broadcast was this one. So Latvia and Great Britain. And Latvia was the favorite in this one, let's be honest. And they showed off why they are one of the favorites in this group, definitely. Happy Mac had 2 goals to start the game. Then their left wing Crooks also had a goal. So it was 3-0 Latvia, with 5-0 in shots midway through the game. This game 1 was just really tough to start for Great Britain. They really didn't get much going at all. And Latvia, they were scoring goals like this. They were just passing the puck around, getting those great chances. And just a great goal again. Hat-trick by Happy Mac, the first hat-trick of the tournament. In the third, Great Britain did get 2 goals. Oh yeah, this was actually one of the nicest plays we saw on that stream. And game 2, Latvia just kept going. They started off real strong. Yet again, Happy Mac scores the first goal. Then Kruk scored another one. So 2-0 in the first 10 minutes of the game. Great Britain did get this, again, a really nice goal. Jimmy Cook's little backskate. But yeah, Latvia is just a really strong team, so no surprises here. Great Britain wasn't able to come out with any points in this matchup. The last matchup in Group B that was played, France against SG World. And SG World, probably the favorite in this group. They got off to a really hot start in this matchup. They scored 2 in the first period. Then one of the nicer goals in this tournament so far. Virus Active just dancing through. And the finish wasn't that clean, but still great goal. And then Firecat's another one. And then this is probably the nicest goal we saw day 1. Just an unbelievable play. Finishes at 5-hole. France did get one here towards the end, but the final score was 6-1 in this game 1. And then game 2, it was tied 0-0 for a really long time, and France actually ties it up right here. So we were in the third period and pretty much closing in on the end, but then SG World strikes. It's 2-1, and France just isn't quite able to score here. They got a couple of great chances late, but SG World, I mean, the huge favorite in this group, they win both of the games, but France almost were able to push that game into overtime in game 2. So Group B standings after the first game day look like this. SG World, Latvia, both with 6 points against Great Britain and France, who are sitting at the bottom of the standings, and then Slovakia and Austria split the points. And if you guys don't know how this works, basically the top 2 teams from groups B and C will make it to the playoffs, as well as everyone from Group A, as we have the top 4 ranked teams here. Finishing top 4 in groups B and C will guarantee these countries entry into next year's SG World Cup, if the tournament is held next year. So you also do want to avoid finishing in the bottom 2 in these groups. The next game day, by the way, is on Thursday. And on stream, we're going to have France against Great Britain. So that is already a huge matchup. If someone is able to come out with 6 points, it's bad news for the other. That's for sure. Now, moving on to Group C, we have Ukraine and Czechia, as well as Norway and Switzerland. Denmark and Germany didn't play this day. They were supposed to, but Denmark weren't able to play this day. It was just 2 matchups this day. And Ukraine and Czechia, one of the predicted contenders for the playoffs in this group in Czechia, just absolutely dominating this matchup, which it's not a huge surprise considering how big of a hockey nation Czechia is compared to something like Ukraine. And also that goal that we just saw there, I don't know if Sovi knows this, but it's not very nice to do this sort of a thing, because this right here that you're seeing, like, that's a little bit of bullying in my opinion. So yeah, Czechia just keeps scoring a lot of goals in this game. Honestly, they scored some sick goals. Like, oh yeah, look at this goal as well. Look at this. Toe drags. That's just disgusting. That's just absolutely disgusting by Sovi. And that was a nice play as well. Winchi with the hat trick. Ukraine got 1 at the end, so game 1 ended 9-2. And the second game, well, not much to be said. It was very similar story. It was pretty close for a while. It was 4-0 going into the third. But then, again, Czechia just kept scoring a lot. And this was a nice goal as well. Game ended 9-0. 9-0, so huge day 1 for Czechia, scoring 18 goals. And obviously for Ukraine, it is going to be a long tournament against quality teams like Czechia. There's also teams like Germany in their group, as well as Norway. And talking about Norway, Norway's game is up next. An arguably even better start to the tournament than Czechia, as they face Switzerland, and they absolutely dominated these games. Or, well, looking at some of these goals, it has to be said that possibly these games could have been a little bit more even. It has to be said a couple of those were a little bit lucky. Switzerland, nice goal off the face-off to make it 4-1. But yeah, Norway just kept going and they win this first game 6-1, which is a pretty shocking score to see in this sort of a matchup. Switzerland and Norway, you would guess it's a close battle, but somehow Norway just absolutely dominant. Switzerland even had the lead for quite some time in the second matchup, but this game also ends with a surprising 4-1 score. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty rough start for Team Ukraine as well as Team Switzerland. As we look at the standings here as well, for this group, as I said, Denmark and Germany did not get to play just yet, but a great start from both Czechia and Norway. And with these results, I mean, it's already pretty clear that it's going to be Germany challenged by Czechia and Norway in this group for those top 2 spots. Obviously, Denmark still hasn't started playing, so they do have a shot at trying to make the playoffs, but the quality on teams like Czechia, Norway, Germany, also one of the best teams in the tournament. So it is looking extremely rough for Switzerland and Ukraine at this point. And even for Denmark, it is a long way to try to make the playoff. Against 3 teams of this caliber, Germany, Norway, Czechia, it's going to be a tight battle, as well as it's going to be a tight battle in Group B. I believe SG World and Latvia are the two favorites in this group, but you cannot count out a team like Slovakia either. They showed off some really good offense in their first matchup against Austria. And you also never know about a team like France. They lose to the favorite, SG World. If they keep winning games after this point, they could still make a run for the playoffs. The next game day is going to be the 8th of May, aka Thursday this week. And the games we have that day are Latvia and Austria. They're playing off stream. Then on broadcast, we have Czechia, Norway, the top 2 teams in Group C. So that's going to be a huge matchup right there, considering the playoff race in this group. The other broadcast game being Great Britain and France. So the bottom 2 teams in Group B facing off one another, and the top 2 teams in Group C facing off one another. As we take a look at some of the individual stats here, I mean, Team Czechia, 15, 14, 12 points for the forwards. Obviously, at this point, it's basically just whoever scored the most goals as a team are going to have those players up there. You see Swaney, 6 goals scored. And in net, if we sort by save percentage, we see Winchester, Alex Salt for Norway and SG World, both at around 90 save percentage for their teams. Also David for Team Czechia at 86. That's the situation after day 1 of the SG World Cup. Day 2 coming up on Thursday. I'll be doing a similar recap, but if you want to watch the games live, the 2 matchups between Norway and Czechia, as well as Great Britain and France, are going to be played at twitch.tv/sportsgamergg. Also, one last thing, because otherwise everyone's going to be screaming about Group A. They start their games this weekend, so the 10th and 11th of May. We're going to see some big matchups between these 4 teams. Canada, Finland, Sweden, USA. That's going to be interesting as well.